hot take alert, I think Nintendo makes good games. Ever since the introduction of the NES, they've released a ridiculous amount of quality titles, and today I want to go through every year and pick the best one. Considering Nintendo has been releasing games steadily since 1974, we have a lot to cover, so I suggest we dive right in. Oh, and just for clarity, I'm gonna be using the release years in the US for this list. Now, I mentioned 1974 as the year Nintendo released their first game, Wild Gunman, in arcades, but the first year we're gonna be tackling is 1985. After all, what's the point in choosing the best game out of 2 or 3 options? So, we skipped to 1985, when Nintendo released the NES in the US and a total of 16 games to go along with it. There are some famous titles here like Excite Bike, Ice Climber and Duck Hunt, but the best game of this year is leagues above the rest, being Super Mario Bros. I'm gonna assume everyone watching this video knows how iconic this game is, and while it is of course not the smoothest experience these days, it's still very good for a game that's almost 40 years old. An easy winner for me. The next year was a quieter year for the NES, mostly receiving a slew of arcade ports. It did introduce us to one new series though, being Metroid, which is easily the best game of 1986 for me. Great experience, another one that's better than its age suggests, and with little serious competition, it's an easy victory. The same cannot be said for 1987, which saw the release of some big titles like Kid Icarus and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! The clear favorite for this year is of course The Legend of Zelda, but I personally have never been the biggest enjoyer of the original, while I think Punch-Out! Aged relatively gracefully. So it was close, very close, but in the end I did settle on The Legend of Zelda as the winner. The respect I have for this game made a difference, but it was incredibly tight. 1988 was the year of the sequels, with Nintendo's flagship games being Super Mario Bros. 2 and Zelda 2. Looking back, they're both strange follow-ups for their own reasons, but I think Mario Bros. 2 is pretty comfortably the better game, so that one takes home the gold. Just make sure to send a thank you note to Doki Doki Panic. 1989 saw the introduction of the Game Boy, with many games released for Nintendo's first handheld, the best of which was Super Mario Land. While the soundtrack still bangs, I do think this game aged pretty badly, so my vote for Game of the Year goes to one of the few NES titles, being Tetris. Probably the greatest puzzle game of all time, I think it's deserving of the title, especially in a year without true heavy hitters. Speaking of puzzle games, 1990 introduced another quality one, being Dr. Mario. However, in this competition it has to lose out to another game from the same series, being Super Mario Bros. 3. Just an amazing title this, one of the best on NES and easily the winner of Game of the Year. 1991 gave sequels to Metroid and Kid Icarus, as well as introduced the world to F-Zero. But once again, Mario ends up on top. Super Mario World, a launch title for the new SNES, is simply too good to ignore, and so it's a back-to-back victory for Mario. He won't make it a three-peat though, because while 1992 saw the release of Super Mario Kart and Mario Land 2, they both lose out to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. While Mario Kart was great at the time, it hasn't aged well, something that doesn't apply to Zelda. It still looks nice, it still plays nice, it's a certified classic and deserving of the crown. 1993 saw Nintendo release a relatively small number of games, but there were some quality titles. The first Star Fox, Link's Awakening and Mario All-Stars were all great games, but my vote goes to Kirby's Adventure. I've never really enjoyed Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy, it's too barren for me, but the introduction of copy abilities elevates this game so much. Kirby is a little lucky with its release year though. I don't think it would have beat A Link to the Past for example, but out of the available options, it's the best one. Next is 1994, which is in my opinion the most difficult year yet. Super Metroid and Donkey Kong Country both released on SNES this year, and both are absolutely stellar, up until this very day even. They also both look very good, further troubling things. It's too close to call really, but I have to, so my vote goes to Donkey Kong Country. Let it be reiterated though, that both these games are fantastic. Highly recommend trying them if you never have. Alright, 1995 is up now, pitting Donkey Kong Country's sequel against the first Yoshi's Island and Earthbound. And while I do love Yoshi's Island, my vote goes to Earthbound, which is just such a well-made game. An absolute art piece in a time when it was still very rare. Just play it and you'll fully understand why so many fans still love this short series, even while it's been away for so long. Then we get to 1996, where there can really only be one winner. Kirby Superstar is nice, Super Mario RPG is a cult classic, but Super Mario 64 is different gravy. A launch game for the Nintendo 64, every compliment this game has received over the past 30 years has been fully deserved. It's a revolutionary title that changed the course of gaming forever, and for me, it's the best game Nintendo had released up until this point. The Nintendo 64 is in full swing now, as we'll also see with the coming years. Like 1997, which pits Star Fox 64 against racing giants Diddy Kong Racing and Mario Kart 64. My vote goes to Mario Kart though, as this was the game where the iconic Mario Kart series truly found its footing, with an entry that's still enjoyable today. 1998 makes for another very difficult choice, because it's the release year of both Pokemon Red and Blue and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. At the time, my vote would have gone to Pokemon, but as the years have gone by, I think it's become clear Ocarina of Time is the better game. It's simply way more polished, things actually work as intended, which is always a good thing. But no worries, Pokemon will get its recognition later. In fact, Pokemon will get its recognition now, because I think Pokemon Yellow is the best game of 1999. Super Smash Bros., Mario Party and Donkey Kong 64 are all great games, but Yellow is such a significant upgrade to the original games, coming at the height of Pokemania, that I can't pass up on it. But of course, Pokemon's hype would continue going into the new millennium, as 2000 sees Pokemon Gold and Silver face a familiar foe, being The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. Once again, it's an incredibly close call for me, as both are legendary titles. The second round of this battle is gonna go to Pokemon though, as Gold and Silver were just absolutely mind-blowing games to young me. The moment when Johto is over and Kanto is left is one of my greatest early gaming memories. I have to reward that with the Game of the Year title. The next year, 2001, has Pokemon bring out another heavy hitter with Pokemon Crystal, but it's not enough for a first place trophy. This was just a great year in general, to be honest, because titles like Pikmin, Paper Mario, Luigi's Mansion and even Golden Sun could have easily won in other years. The crown ends up on Sakurai's head, however, as my pick is Super Smash Bros. Melee. I was a late adapter to this game, but I absolutely loved it the moment I got it. The gameplay is so good, people still play it competitively today, and the amount of content packed into this one tiny disc was absolutely insane at the time. A deserved winner. We stay with the GameCube for 2002, as this year sees the release of big titles for the system like Super Mario Sunshine and Animal Crossing. While my vote would have gone to Sunshine back in the day, nowadays I consider the best game of the year to be Metroid Prime. The fact Prime Remastered on Switch barely touched the core experience and still ended up as one of the year's best games says it all. 2003 was another stellar year for Nintendo with some great releases. Mario Kart Double Dash, Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, F-Zero GX, the list goes on and on. They all lose out to The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, however, which at the time may have been received poorly, but fans have really come around to since, me included. Such a charming experience, easily one of Nintendo's best ever games for me. At the time, it felt like one of the first open world experiences, even if it technically isn't one. 2004 was a much quieter year, with not too many releases. Pikmin and Metroid Prime received sequels, which are both great, and Super Mario 64 was brought over to the then brand new Nintendo DS. Best title of the year for me was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, however. The peak of the Paper Mario franchise is such an elite experience, fans of the series have been clamoring for the return of the formula of this game for decades now, and it's easy to see why. We had the 2005 next, which saw Nintendo focus mostly on the GameCube and DS, with great games like Mario Strikers, Mario Kart DS, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and Animal Crossing Wild World. But surprisingly enough, the best game for me was released on the nearly dead Game Boy Advance. Pokemon Emerald improved on the already excellent Ruby and Sapphire to make another amazing Pokemon experience, giving the series another feather in its cap. 2006 had Nintendo release quality titles on 4 different systems, with Mother 3 on GBA, New Super Mario Bros. On DS, and Twilight Princess on GameCube, and the Wii of course. The winner is another Wii launch title though. It's the pack-in game in fact, as I'm handing the crown to Wii Sports. This was such a revolutionary title at the time, and really had everyone thinking motion controls were the future instead of a temporary gimmick. Such a fun experience, it's Nintendo at its most Nintendo-y. Next year, 2007, was another big one with some fantastic releases like the 4th generation of Pokemon, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, Super Paper Mario, WarioWare Smooth Moves and Metroid Prime 3, but the best of them all was of course Super Mario Galaxy. For a long time, this was my favorite Mario game, but when I recently replayed it in 3D All-Stars on Switch, I didn't love it as much as I used to. But still, the atmosphere of this game is amazing. The graphics are great, the levels are super creative, and the music, man, the music is just phenomenal. 2008 saw two multiplayer heavyweights hit the Wii, with Mario Kart Wii and Super Smash Bros. Brawl going head to head. Let me just preface this difficult decision by saying I absolutely love both these games. They both supplied me with endless hours of fun, and I both hold them very dear. But in the end, Subspace Emissary hands Brawl the title. I was completely obsessed with this mode at the time. I've played through the story and especially watched the cutscenes more times than I can count. Brawl really widened my view from a few series to everything Nintendo, and I genuinely don't think I would be sitting here making this video if I had never bought Brawl. So yeah, it's a defining game for me and the best one of 2008. 2009 is next, and this was a bit of a down year. There were some good games, but nothing that really blew me away. I'm talking about titles like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Wii Sports Resort, or Bowser's Inside Story, who all lose out to my favorite of the year, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. I've always loved this series, although I haven't been such a fan of the games that followed this one. Explorers of Sky is excellent though, it's the peak of the series for me and many fans, and while it could have never won in bigger years, the lower output of 2009 allows me to put the spotlight on this somewhat smaller title. We entered the 2010s next, where we once again see a direct confrontation between Mario Galaxy, the sequel this time, and a Pokemon game, being Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Personally, I've always preferred Galaxy 1 over Galaxy 2, so for me the choice falls on the Gen 2 remakes. Gold and Silver already won in 2000, and now, 10 years later, their remakes do the same. These are just fantastic experiences that improve the originals so much that even if they're remakes, they totally deserve their title of Best Games of the Year. 2011 is another difficult year, because it pits two games against one another where my experience changed drastically over time. On one hand, you've got Zelda Skyward Sword, which I really loved at the time, but nowadays don't enjoy as much because of the clunky controls and linear design. On the other hand is Pokemon Black and White, which had the reverse effect. Yes, I was part of the group who didn't really enjoy the game as much on release. I liked that there were no old Pokemon, but the formula was getting a bit stale at this point, and while I now see that the sprite work in this game is stellar, I was getting bored of that at the time and wanted 3D Pokemon. Nowadays, I agree with many Pokemon fans that say this is among the best generations, and I've really come around to it, so I'm giving it the title of Game of the Year, meaning Pokemon is now on a three-peat of consecutive wins. And it's getting even worse, because they're making it 4. While the Wii was losing steam and the 3DS was having a difficult launch, Pokemon Black and White 2 released, and just blew me away, even if it was still on Nintendo DS. My reconsideration of Gen 5 started with this game, because I just loved the idea of a sequel setting so much, fixing the staleness I had felt with the originals. I enjoyed these two more than Xenoblade or the titles for the 3DS like Kid Icarus Uprising or Mario Kart 7. And we don't even need to mention what the Wii U launched with. So yeah, 4 in a row for Pokemon, a great achievement. But it ends here. Pokemon X and Y, which released in 2013, are for me the worst Pokemon titles and are not in consideration. Animal Crossing New Leaf, Super Mario 3D World and Pikmin 3 definitely are, and I absolutely enjoyed Wind Waker HD as well, but I will usually prefer new experiences over remakes and remasters. And so, my pick for this year is Fire Emblem Awakening. It's no coincidence this game ended up saving the series, because it's really good. So many memorable characters, fantastic gameplay, and while I've never been the biggest fan of the dating sim side of Fire Emblem, I do love supports, and this game went all in on that aspect. Fully deserves this spot for me. 2014 is up next, the year I'd say Nintendo truly found its groove with the 3DS and the Wii U, even if it didn't last too long. Bayonetta 2, Smash 4, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and of course Mario Kart 8 are all strong titles, but my pick for this year is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It's a wonderful platformer that balances difficulty very nicely with creative level designs and themes. It's relatively cheap to get on Switch these days, so if you've never tried it, I can strongly recommend it. 2015 kept the fun titles coming, with shoutouts going to Super Mario Maker and Majora's Mask 3D. But my pick for Game of the Year is a brand new IP, being Splatoon. This game was such a fun concept when it first hit the scene. It was really a true Nintendo spin on multiplayer shooters, which I've played my fair share of in my younger days. While I don't think Splatoon can truly compare to the frontrunners of the genre, it compensates with the evergreen Nintendo charm and ended 2015 as its best game. 2016 followed, of course, and was frankly a poor year. And not because of a lack of games, unfortunately, but the ones that did come didn't hit as hard as you'd like. Fire Emblem Fates, Star Fox Zero, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam and Metroid Prime Federation Force are all games I wouldn't consider as good as their predecessors. Pokemon Sun and Moon were definitely a big step up from X and Y for me, but not comparable to earlier titles, and so my pick is gonna be the game that dominated this year. Pokemon Go. I genuinely don't think I will ever feel the same about a game as I did with Pokemon Go. This was such an incredible experience, where it genuinely felt like everyone on the planet was bonding over catching Pokemon. You'd go outside, see someone on their phone and could make a pretty accurate guess they'd probably be playing Pokemon Go. It was just so special. I really hope we get to see something like that again in the future. Over the years, I've periodically returned to Pokemon Go and had fun every time, cause it's just a good concept in its core and genuinely a good game, which deserves to call itself the best Nintendo game of 2016. And then we arrive at 2017, the release year of the Nintendo Switch. And that means we have one heck of a choice to make between The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. I genuinely am of the opinion both these games are near perfect, and in the absolute upper echelon of Nintendo games, so this is such a difficult choice. At the time, I would have said Breath of the Wild probably, but I am of the opinion Tears of the Kingdom has caused its predecessor to feel less special than before, so I'm going with Odyssey for this one. Shout out to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, by the way. Ever since the Booster Pass, it's also up there with the absolute best Nintendo games of all time, but competition for this year is just too crazy. 2018 had a complete landslide of a winner, being Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. While World of Light isn't as good as Subspace Emissary, and I sorely miss trophies, I have had so much fun with this game over the years, I have to go for it. Second place probably goes to WarioWare Gold, which is a great game, but of course doesn't compare to Smash in terms of grandeur. 2019 had another comfortable winner for me, as Super Mario Maker 2 loses out to Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game is truly special to me. I was obsessed with it when I first played it. I don't want to spoil it too much, but as a Blue Lion man, I was blown away with a certain reveal in the temple about halfway through the game. That cutscene is genuinely my favorite cutscene of any game ever. It just completely took me by surprise. So yeah, another easy one for me. 2020, a perfectly calm year where nothing happened, and my pick for the best of this year is Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've always had a weird relationship with the series, where I love the idea more than the execution most of the time. New Horizons changed this though, because the way it uses crafting as well as allow you to decorate the entire island made it easily my favorite game in the series. I agree with fans who say the content lacks, that's a completely fair point, but I still loved my time with it. 2021 was a bit of a slower year for the Switch, with quality but lower profile titles. I greatly enjoyed new Pokemon Snap, very underrated that one, and Mario Party Superstars is also a fun return to form for the series, even if it's lacking in content. The best game of the year was Metroid Dread for me though, even if I don't love it as much as most fans do. I don't want to sound too negative, seeing as I'm still considering it the best game of the year, but I didn't love it as much as I hoped I would. 2022 was a similar year, where I want to give Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Kirby and the Forgotten Land their deserved compliments. Both great games, but attention definitely was on Pokemon this year, with two main series releases. I actually really enjoyed Scarlet and Violet, even if their performance and graphics are below what they should be. But my favorite of the year was the other game, Legends Arceus. Again, the graphics aren't that good, but frankly, I don't care. The gameplay of this game is incredible. It's everything I dreamt Pokemon would ever be in the future. I've always loved collecting Pokemon more than battling, so this game was right up my alley, and I enjoyed every second of it. I'm really happy the Legends sub-series is sticking around, because it's something truly special. And then we arrive in 2023, a year where you'd think the Switch would be winding down, but instead we got banger on banger on banger. Fire Emblem Engage, Metroid Prime Remastered, Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Pikmin 4 could have all won themselves a title in different years, but the best game of 2023 can only be Tears of the Kingdom. What an experience this game is. I haven't even totally finished it at the time of making this video. That's how much there is to do and see in this masterpiece that did the impossible and improved upon what was already one of Nintendo's best games of all time. And with that, we have come to the end. Before we wrap up though, I thought it'd be fun to take a quick look at each series and see how often I ended up picking a game of that series as my game of the year. Closing out the top 10 are 6 series who I've all picked once, being Tetris, Kirby, Earthbound, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and whatever series Wii Sports is. Fire Emblem and Donkey Kong I've both picked twice, leaving them one behind Metroid and Super Smash Bros. On 3. Next up is the bronze medalist, being The Legend of Zelda, with a total of 5 Game of the Year trophies. And finally, the number 2 and 1 are on equal numbers, with both Mario and Pokemon winning 9 years out of a possible 39. And with that, my list has come to an end, but I can't imagine you guys agree with me on all these picks. So, let me know in the comments what you would do differently. It's always fun to see how other people have experienced these many years. If you've enjoyed hearing me talk about Nintendo, please consider subscribing and liking this video, and if you're a fan of one of the many series I've covered in this video, check out my other channels where I go deeper into the stories, lore, and my opinions on them. I'll leave a link to them in the description. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.